Dan Boren pretends he's a Democrat who cares about Oklahoma families. But he's not shooting straight with you. The truth is that Dan's a Washington, D.C. boy in good standing and real popular with the big shot lobbyists. D.C. Dan said no to equal pay for women and no to unemployment benefits for Americans out of work, but yes to a big pay raise for himself and to heck with the recession. Dan took $205,000 from Wall Street lobbyists, then voted for a $700 billion Wall Street bailout and against regulations to make them play fair. D.C. Dan spends his time bashing the president and Democrats while playing golf with lobbyists and the Republican leadership. In fact, he's so tight with the Republican leadership, he was the only Democrat they took along on a 2-week luxury junket, paid for by your tax dollars. D.C. Dan voted to give vets the heave-ho, voting no when it came to college tuition for returning soldiers, but vows never to roll back the Bush tax cuts for the super rich. Big insurance companies gave Dan over $250,000, and Dan returned the favor, voting against a law that would have made insurance companies pay up instead of dropping people when they get sick. That oil spewing into the Gulf? Give Dan some credit. He took $500,000 from big oil lobbyists, then gave them huge tax breaks and said, nah, we don't need safety regulations. And finally, D.C. Dan has a tax deal for you. He supports the Republican flat tax scheme to add a 30% sales tax to everything you buy. $100 in groceries becomes $130 if Dan has his way. Dan's the only Democrat in Congress co-sponsoring this legislation, along with 61 Republicans. There's a real Democrat running to represent working families in Oklahoma, State Senator Jim Wilson. Jim's a Vietnam veteran who knows what it means to be in combat. Jim's never taken a pay raise or a junket on the taxpayer dime and never will. Join the Jim Wilson campaign team today and send a real Democratic voice for Oklahomans to Congress.